It's Carrie Broussard here, and I met a really fascinating person I want to introduce you to. Her name is Lisa Earle McLeod, and she sells with a noble purpose. That's her company moniker, and I love that, Lisa.
Well, thanks. You know, people don't think of the word selling and noble, that those two things would go together, but actually they are at the heart of the most successful and most profitable businesses.
That's the first thing people say about sales is they have the worst impression of salespeople. They don't want to sell. What motivates us to feel that way? And what's the problem?
Well, a lot of why we have a negative perception of sales is based on a small percentage of people who do it very badly. And so when we think about, like, the car industry has not done any favors for the sales profession. But people tend to think about sales as talking people into something that they don't want to do. And actually, our research shows us that the opposite is true. So in my company, we work with large sales organizations as consultants, and we're always looking for what's the thing that would make an organization more successful in sales. You know, I've always been drawn to sales. And the thing for me that I realized going back to when I was a little girl is the thing that was always so interesting to me is that one person could say something in a certain way and people would respond positively. And another person could say the same thing but in a different way and get a completely different response. And so that was always fascinating to me.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I often watched when I was a kid, I grew up in a household where we didn't go to church, but I was mesmerized by television preachers. Mm-hmm. And I would watch their different styles.
Yeah.
What I watched was I watched the way they made people feel. And that was always interesting to me. So my background is in sales. I was with Procter & Gamble for many years. I was, early in my career, was a sales trainer for them. And I was a really successful sales trainer. And I went to work in the sales training business, started my own company. But the thing that I found in recent years, our research enabled me to put my finger on what I always knew in my heart to be true, and it's this. The difference between top performers and average performers, as measured by money, as measured by revenue, the difference between those two people in sales is the top performers are focused on what we call noble purpose.
Really?
The top performers are the ones who want to improve their customers' lives. And the average performers are focused on quotas. And that is the exact opposite of the way we have motivated most salespeople.
Very interesting. Because when you first started describing this and you said the way certain people say things can be accepted more fully, and I began to think about women and men, and sometimes how, you know, going back to the workplace, a lot of times women will say things a certain way and it won't be heard, and then just 2 minutes later a man might
says it and they go, "You're a genius."
Yeah. Is there correlation there?
There's definitely a correlation, because let me tell you, I work with companies in the software business, I work with companies in pharmaceuticals, and when I walk down the hall to the VP of sales office, what I usually see are pictures of the top sales performers. And more often than not, they're women.
Oh.
And the reason that they're women is for a variety of reasons. And this is just, this doesn't broad brush both sexes in any way, because we're all unique human beings. But as women, we are biologically more in tune with how the other person's thinking and feeling, and we read it better. The other thing is that you find in more women, and when we did these studies of top salespeople, it was pretty split across gender. But what I found was the women actually did a better job of articulating that sense of purpose. Like the men, many of the men had it, but it was harder to tease out of them for them to articulate it. But the women, one of the participants in our study, and this was like the linchpin conversation that changed everything. She worked for a pharmaceutical company, and she talked about this one patient that had been on her company's drug, who had reclaimed her life, this little old lady, and she'd been able to go visit her grandkids. And she said, "That is my higher purpose. I think about her every single day."
How she helped change that person's life.
She said, "I think about that." Well, actually, what she thought about was the image of that person being changed. And not just how much I helped her, but what happened to her. And she said, every day, 4 o'clock Friday afternoon, other sales reps go home. I don't. I think about her.
Wow.
And this turned out,
motivates her to keep selling.
And she was the number one performer in their company for 3 years in a row. And so the thing that was sort of a linchpin moment for us when we were studying that. And when I speak to entrepreneurs groups, especially women entrepreneur groups, I hear this same thing. I don't want to sell. It feels so sleazy. And I think as women, we've been sort of conditioned that we're supposed to wait to be asked to the dance.
Yes.
And
we don't ask.
We don't ask.
Now, I mean, I hate to generalize it but it's a mindset.
But it's a mindset.
Mm-hmm. And I count myself in that mindset because of being an entrepreneur. And you're selling yourself. You're selling your company.
And if I have to sell it, it somehow cheapens it.
Yes.
It makes it less than.
And what happens when we hear no? What's the psychological and or way to combat hearing no?
Well, there's a couple of things. So I want to go back. I want to answer the no question in a second, because that is devastating to women, and it's particularly devastating to women entrepreneurs. Because you didn't just say no to me. You said no to my whole value system, my beliefs.
We are coming back to that.
Because I am my company, so I will talk to you about how to deal with that.
You.
Yeah, I won't forget that one. But it starts before that. It starts before that. And the first thing it has to start with, and most entrepreneurs have this, or they wouldn't be entrepreneurs, is a belief that you have something valuable. And so and most entrepreneurs already have it, or you wouldn't have started it.
Yes.
So it's a belief that you have something valuable. And so if you had a valuable idea, so let's take a valuable idea called democracy. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and the whole crew had a very valuable idea. And so they put their best effort into describing that idea in the very best way so that people could understand it.
Right.
And Thomas Jefferson recrafted the Declaration of Independence over and over again, and John Adams edited it, and then Franklin took it past it, because they knew this is such a big idea. We have to present it in the very best way, or it's a disservice to the idea. So the first thing you have to understand about selling is when you are presenting your business, you are the Thomas Jefferson.
Love it.
And if you don't care enough about your business to present it in the very best, most compelling way, in the way that people can understand the benefit, then you're doing a disservice. Yes. And you're not, Thomas Jefferson didn't go in and go, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You guys in? You're not in? I don't care. If I have to sell it to you, you must not want it that bad. No, he didn't. And so you have to recognize that the act of selling is simply putting the most accurate and positive framing around what you have. It is not about lying. It is not about cheating. It is about positioning what you have in the best possible light.
Wow.
So that's the first thing you have to understand. And then the next thing you have to understand is people aren't stupid. So there's this idea that, I don't want to push somebody into something they don't want to do. Well, that's really putting a lot more weight on you than you actually deserve. Because if you are so good you can push tons of people into doing something that they don't want to do, then you need to have a whole different business. The customer has free will. And if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're in a business-to-business space, people don't make purchasing decisions lightly. You can't push them into doing something they don't want to do. You don't have to worry about that. So what happens is, if you get the no, so that takes us to the no. If you get the no, there are a couple of things going on. One is you didn't position it in a way that they could understand. That's on you.
Yes.
You didn't position it in the best possible way that they could understand. Or two, there were circumstances inside that business or in that buyer's mind that you don't know about, that they didn't share with you. And you right now, they've made a good decision.
Right.
You're not a fit. And so what happens is, if you own an ad agency or a caterer or whatever, they rejected me. Oh, it's literally, for some of us, I have children, and my business is my third child.
Sure.
Sometimes I treat it like it's my only child. And so if you reject me in my business, the two most obvious places that I would go are either, well, they don't know what they're doing, I could have helped them, they just don't understand, they're so stupid, so blame the customer. Or, I'm horrible. My business is terrible. I shouldn't be doing this. Oh, God, I hate this. I wish I didn't have to. Like, neither of those serve.
I really appreciate where you're going with this, because an entrepreneur also doesn't, and anyone necessarily, doesn't come out of the box knowing how to sell the product necessarily unless they've practiced,
Right.
or they've had training. And a lot of entrepreneurs, you can't just stay in your office and practice selling. You've got to go out.
You've got to do practice. That's
and
right.
You've got to be rejected. Therefore, you're not going to come out of the box with the perfect spiel.
Right.
Either.
It takes time. And this is the thing that, and you think about the word spiel, you do need to have a story about your business, but your story is crafted by listening to your customers. Your story is crafted by saying, how did this help you? Why did this matter to you? And so then when you're, quote, selling, you're saying, let me tell you what some of our customers have said.
Do you see a difference there from somebody whose passion lies in, I've opened this business because I've always wanted to do this,
right,
versus somebody who's like, I
don't know what else to do. Yeah.
What's the difference there?
There is a difference, and I'll tell you there can be a downside to both.
Okay.
So economic necessity produces a lot of the right sales behaviors. It also produces some of the wrong sales behaviors. So the right sales
the yin and the yang.
Yeah. So the right sales behaviors that it produces are usually behaviors like they will create marketing materials. They will make phone calls. If you're broke, you'll get over yourself real fast.
Feed to the fire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it produces a sense of urgency. The behaviors that economic necessity produces that are not serving you are when you can't see past, I got to close this deal, because then you're not focused on the customer.
It's not a higher purpose driven.
It's not a higher purpose driven. Now, let me tell you, the person who starts their business with a sense of higher purpose, and I can tell you that I struggled with this, is you are so driven by that and you think everybody needs it, that sometimes you also are exhibiting that same behavior of not listening to your customers.
Very interesting. It's like I took a yoga class or I did this cooking class. You've got to do it.
You've got to do it. And it becomes this belief system, and you become
you don't
like
want
those.
To go around her.
It's going to be all about him. And so what I can give your readers is we have on our website download that they can get. But if you Google Noble Purpose and Sales,
excellent,
you'll find me.
That's wonderful.
And so what we have is we have a process that it's all written up in a PDF. It's totally free. And it describes how to find your own, what we call noble sales purpose.
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, because here's the thing. A lot of people think that they, and truly believe that they have a sense of purpose. I want to change the way the scientific community looks at data. That was one company that we worked with. But that's not enough. What you need to do is you need to have what we call the noble sales purpose, which is how do you affect the people who are going to buy from you?
Excellent.
And so like in our company, our noble sales purpose, NSP for short, is we help leaders drive revenue and do work that makes them proud. And so everything that we do is organized around helping people make more money and be emotionally engaged and excited about what they do. Because you have to have both of those.
You've changed my mind about salespeople. I hope our listeners have as well. Have a different perception. It's not somebody in a slick suit. It's you and me. It's you and I.
It is.
We are salespeople. We're not only selling a product or service, but even our own
brand,
ourselves.
And the idea that we don't want to be perceived as salesy. What I would say is we are letting a very small percentage of people define an entire profession. Yeah. Like we know some engineers are really bad. We know some software programmers are really bad. Mm-hmm. We know some finance guys are really bad. Like
are they bad at sales or are they just bad?
No, I'm saying we know bad finance people. We know in every profession.
Bankers have a bad politicians.
But in every profession, like even the most noble professions, teachers.
Yeah.
20% of them are bad.
I got it.
Sorry. But we don't let, in many other professions, we don't let this small subset of people doing it badly define it. I
love that you're a brand ambassador for sales.
For sales.
That's cool.
Well, I'll tell you where I knew that it was about purpose. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you where I got the idea that I was going to call it noble purpose. I was in a meeting with the CEO of a medical company. And I had worked with her company, big company. Mm-hmm. I had worked with her company for 15 years. They were my very first client, but I'd never met her. Because as a consultant, I worked with a sales team, and I'd never met her. Mm-hmm. And she had been the CEO for 3 or 4 years. They sold some medical products that literally saved people's lives. Yeah. Her sales team was on fire. But in recent years, they had lost their mojo. And, I'd worked with the VP of sales, and he said, I'm telling you, it's a CEO. So I wanted to go meet with her.
So your expectations when you were about to meet her weren't very high.
Well, they actually were, because I thought, I'm just going to talk to her.
And she's the CEO.
And she's
gotta
the
be doing
CEO.
Something right.
And I also thought, they sell medical supplies. And to be honest, I thought, she's a woman. She'll get this.
Yeah, got it.
Could not have been more wrong. So she says to me, well, the sales force is just this coin-operated machine. They're going to do whatever we pay them to do, because all they care about is money. And I just lost it.
Did you?
Oh, I ruined the whole meeting.
You spoke up.
No, I didn't. I completely lost it in my own mind. I clammed up. I ruined the whole meeting because...
Was it just a one-on-one meeting?
It was a one-on-one, and I ruined the whole thing because I didn't say... In hindsight, I ruined it anyway. I should have said what I was thinking. I was thinking, lady, I have watched your sales team come in at midnight to get these products out for customers. Are you kidding me? And so I was so mad. And so I went and I was talking to this friend of mine, and I was late for this phone call that we had, a business colleague. And I was like, I can't even talk about what we're supposed to talk about. I have to vent. I'm so mad. I'm insane. I said, she needs to understand that sales is a
Ooh.
noble profession.
Isn't that interesting? And was that kind of your Cinderella story?
That was the pivotal moment when I... said that at that moment. It is a noble calling. My friend, who's my creative partner, said, that's it.
Wow.
And that's when we realized that word, noble, embodied the best salespeople we have seen.
And it's aspirational?
It's aspirational, and it is so obvious. The only way to be noble is to be in the service of others. And that is the quality that all the top salespeople share. All of them.
You are changing the paradigm, I think, of sales for everyone who's listening. I think would agree with me that we want to hear more from you. And how can we stay in touch with you? What can we do to help you?
So what you can do is you can go on our website. So again, just Google Selling on Noble Purpose, and you'll find it, and you'll download the PDF and copy it and give it to everybody you know.
Okay,
it's absolutely free.
We can do that.
That's what you can do.
And then you're based in?
I'm based in Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yeah, and so I work all around the world.
Okay, great.
So one of the things I've learned at the Conscious Capitalism Conference is that as driven as I am by purpose, according to Tony Schwartz, if I don't sleep more, I'm going to burn out.
And I'm telling you, listeners, Lisa looks great. She looks like she gets plenty of sleep. Really somebody that genuinely wants others to succeed. And I think that's a noble purpose and a noble way of ending the interview with Cinderella CEO on air. We have men and women who listen to our guests and respond either email or ways of getting in touch with you. They'll do this through your website, but we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being with us.
So one of the things that I want to end with is nothing happens in business until somebody sells something.
Interesting.
Nothing happens. If you care about your business, if you care about your cause, if you care about your profession, you owe it to yourself to do the best job you can selling it.
And if somebody out there is listening and they're stuck and they think, wow, I don't know what to do. I've got to sell something and I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from.
Oh, I've been there. I have been there. Take that fearful energy and say, how can I help somebody? Really, really fast. So all that frantic energy, just take it and say, how many people can I help and how fast can I do it? That will make you money. The data shows it. This is not theory.
That is the coolest way to ever have ended an interview. And I thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Great.
Thanks, listeners. We'll see you later.